What's up guys, Shinsuke here, and in today's video I will talk about the scout helicopters in Battlefield 4. I will break down the two helicopters and all the unlockables available to be used. There are supposedly a total of 3 individual scout helicopters, but since the Chinese and Russian factions share the same helicopter, so technically there's only 2 different ones. So the 2 helicopters are the American AH-6 Lowbird and the Chinese and Russian Z-11W. So if you ever compare these 2 scout helicopters to each other, and if you ask me, I think they perform very much the same. It is just the looks that's very different. I could be wrong since I don't really know the details, but if you do know, please tell me in the comment section down below. So let's get started by explaining the first scout helicopter, which is the AH-6 Lowbird. It is a light helicopter used for special operations in the United States Army. Originally, the helicopter was based on a modified version of the AH-6A, but later it was based on the MD-500E with a single 5-bladed main rotor. The AH-6 Lowbird was first seen in Battlefield 2 Armor Fury and was in Battlefield 3 also, and it is set to be returning in Battlefield 4 as the scout helicopter for the US faction. The other scout helicopter is the Z-11W. Again, I believe this helicopter is for both of the Russian and Chinese faction. It is a light utility helicopter developed by Changi Aircraft Industry Corporation. It has been in development since 1991, and the original Z-11 entered in service as a trainer helicopter in 1998. Just like the Lowbird, it was first introduced in Battlefield 2 Armor Fury and was also seen in Battlefield 3, but as a Russian scout helicopter. So I want to give you guys some more information on these scout helicopters. They have a total of 4 seats with 1 pilot, 1 passenger, 2 seats for the passengers which are available to use their equipment and weapons, but I am not too sure if the first passenger will still have the laser painter from Battlefield 3, which will laser designate targets for the pilot to fire laser guided missiles at. And in Battlefield 3, if you flew too close to the enemy, they can use their guns to shoot through the windshield or from the side of the scout helicopter and kill you. So I'm sure that little feature will be back. Right now, I want to tell and explain to you guys all the available unlocks for the scout helicopter. Now, in Battlefield 4, the unlocks are all categorized in 5 different categories. They include primary weapon, secondary weapon, countermeasure, upgrades, and paint. So in the primary section of weapons, they include the 7.62 miniguns, which has a very high rate of fire for taking out infantry, light armor vehicles, and other aircrafts. In Battlefield 3, for the primary weapons, we only had the miniguns and no other choice. The miniguns for both of the helicopters did fire at 2,000 rounds per minute, so I'm sure it will be the same for Battlefield 4. It has infinite amount of ammo, but it has a cooldown time if you fire the miniguns continuously. The other choice of primary weapons include the 25mm cannons, which will fire 25mm explosive shells, which are very effective against light and medium armor vehicles and as well as infantry, but the only drawback is it has a magazine capacity of 30 rounds. I would think this 25mm cannon can be related to the attack helicopter's gunner's gun. I'm sure they'll probably add even more weapons in this section because the possibilities are endless. Alright, moving on, we have the secondary weapon section. We first have the heat seekers, and they lock on to heat signatures radiating from the aircrafts and usually comes in packs of 2. The IR flares will 90% of the time counter these missiles because of the heat signature coming out the flares. Then the other secondary weapon so far is the laser guided missile. It is a powerful missile that locks onto ground targets and laser designated targets. They were very good for taking out tanks in Battlefield 3 and were also pretty good for taking out aircrafts before they took out the laser painter for the pilot and gave it to the passenger. The thing that can really counter these missiles are the IR smoke or the ECM jammer for the aircrafts. I would think they'll add even more weapons in this section and maybe the possibility of another pair of guns. Moving on to the countermeasure section, we first have the IR flares. They're like balls of fire which attracts the heat-seeking missiles, and they actually also break the lock-on from the enemies so you can get away. The next countermeasure is the fire extinguisher. It only really works when the vehicle or aircraft has sustained critical damage, meaning it has to be disabled. And getting disabled is now harder in Battlefield 4, and unlike in Battlefield 3, you get disabled in a certain health. Now your vehicle will have to sustain certain damage to make it immobilized, meaning like if you had a tank and someone shot out your tracks, then you'll move slower. By using the extinguisher, it'll put out any fires and it'll bring the vehicle back to function state and let it start to recover again. The last countermeasure is the ECM jammer. What it does to a vehicle is it basically releases a long trail of smoke which will prevent targeting system from locking onto you, and it'll spoof any incoming missiles for a period of time. But the ECM jammer, in my opinion, is less effective against heat seekers but more effective with laser guided missiles. Maybe it's because I don't use them properly, but I don't know. The last really important category of unlocks in Battlefield 4 scout helicopters is the upgrade section. Firstly, there's the gyro stabilizer. It is an unlock which they so far introduced to jets and scout helicopters, and I'm sure in the future to the attack helicopters. I'm sure you guys know when you get disabled in an aircraft in Battlefield 3, you lose almost all your control. So what the gyro stabilizer does is it will maximize the controls of a disabled aircraft until it can repair itself. So I really think this will make aircraft last much longer than it did in Battlefield 3. The other 3 unlocks available to the scout helicopters include so far the 3 returning ones, which is proximity scan. It will scan around the aircraft's location and will reveal enemy movement on the minimap, and this only works for ground vehicles and infantry. Stealth is also returning, but it's called stealth coding, which will increase the time of the enemy targeting system to lock onto you, and I'm sure it will be harder for them to spot the aircraft which has stealth. The last upgrade is the air radar. It's everyone's favorite. I'm sure you guys know what it does, and if you don't, it basically replaces the minimap with a radar which displays all the aircrafts in the air around the radius. It is most useful for jets when dogfighting. The last category is paint, and this category is the same for all the vehicles, and just like the weapons, I believe there's the same amount of over 130 camos for the vehicles. If you haven't seen my videos on camos, then I will have a link in the description for you guys. Anyways, that's all the information I have for you guys. Be sure to stay tuned to my channel for other Battlefield 4 videos. And thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and a comment down below. I appreciate it. Check out my channels for other Battlefield 4 videos. I'm sure you'll find a video you'll like. I will continue to strive for being your number one source for Battlefield 4 videos. Peace out, guys.